You're listening to Your Rivers Are Wrong, the podcast.
Good morning, or evening, or afternoon, whenever you may be. Welcome back to the Your Rivers Are Wrong podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Dante.
And I'm the other host. My name is Merle.
And we're here, as we are every week, to talk about the wonderful whimsies of world building, the arts and aesthetics of setting up a setting, and telling stories born from it.
That's right. Perfect.
This has been a bit of a hectic week for both of us, I think.
I agree on my side, yes.
And there's something great about coming back to the podcast. And as we kind of walk into it, we're like, all right, what are we going to talk about in the opening? And you take that 5 minutes to kind of reflect on what the week has been like the past 7 days.
Yep.
And it's been a whirlwind. At least when this is coming out, we just got off of Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day. If you're a mother listening to this, happy Mother's Day. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Is that the same day for you guys as it is for us?
Yeah.
I think it is, right?
Like past Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah, this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Is it like an international thing? Did we all just kind of agree?
Isn't this didn't we make this day up? Like, I think we all agree.
Yeah, but
in like the commercial sense.
Was it like a UN decision?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think that's definitely what it is. Yeah.
The UN was like, all right, a bunch of holidays. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Also, by the way, talking about Mother's Day, I had a great comment from my mom that she was awake very early yesterday morning. And she was like, hey, did you know what I do this morning? And this was like 6 a.m. or something. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, I listened to your podcast.
No
and I
way.
thought she wouldn't be doing it because it's English and we talk very fast and we're super niche. And then she's I could totally follow it. My English is actually great. And you should tell the people that I watched it.
Oh my God.
So here it is. Shout out to my bestest mom ever. It's great.
Hi. Shout out to Merle's mom.
And she thought you had a great podcast voice, which I think you would be,
Thank you. I appreciate that. It truly is an effort.
Happy to hear.
To talk.
Yes.
That's good. That's so affirming.
It's nice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.
I was very happy about it.
Oh, and I'm just going to sit with that compliment for a moment.
Let it seep in.
Let's take like a couple seconds.
Bask in it.
Wow, that's great. I think it's always so special when someone we know starts listening to our podcast, and it's just like, oh, wait, you know us in all these other contexts.
Yeah. So, now you know what it means when I say a podcast every week. This is what it means. It's this.
This is what it means. Yeah, my friend recently hit me up and was like, hey, just started listening to your podcast. Wow, that's such an interesting topic. Let's talk about it. I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. Which episode did you listen to? And it was so fun.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah, I love it.
So always so wonderful.
Yeah.
And there was somebody, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. It's somewhere on YouTube. But, we upload these episodes, or we've been uploading these episodes to YouTube as like a audio visual kind of thing. Mm-hmm. No other effects besides these cool swirly lines that
very
light
cool,
up whenever we talk.
Worth checking out. Yes. Took like 8 hours of your life to learn After Effects for it. So definitely worth it.
Yes. Oh gosh, I forgot. They have like a green icon. If you're listening to this, because I think you might be. Oh my God, I'll get your name for the next episode. But they're like, yeah, just caught up on your episodes. I'm finally up to the most recent episode. I'm like, oh, you listened to all the episodes?
Wait, that's such a commitment. I love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine somebody just starting from the beginning and listening all the way through?
That makes me feel like so connected to people and humble about how many hours that is.
That's a lot of hours.
Oh
we've clocked close to, what are we, episode 57?
Yeah.
We're probably closing in on 2 full days of audio.
Yeah, man. It's a lot.
Which is wild.
Oh, yeah, good vibes. Crazy. This is great.
Yeah,
I love people.
Good start.
People are so nice.
I love people. Let it be known. Us on the podcast, we love people.
Yes.
If you're people.
All people, welcome here. Because we love them.
Also, like non-people, if you're listening from another planet, if you're listening from another galaxy, if these radio waves like reach you, listen, bring it in.
Yeah. I'll take
it's
it.
all love here.
Yep.
Okay. Quick update on my life. I did the stream last night. We record these the morning after I do my weekly new game stream, where I'm going through a series of 99 more TTRPGs, tabletop RPGs. And every week I pick up a new game and try to learn it within the span of an hour and a half for the entertainment of the crowd. And last night we played Lost Below the Earth, which was recommended to me by Cassie Mothwin of Tangled Blessings.
Fun.
And it's basically a horror delving game. You go into the earth and you slowly go deeper and deeper and lose pieces of yourself, lose your sanity along the way. It's kind of, you're kind of destined to die in general. There are ways out, and we made some rules where like, if I win this many times in this many scenarios, then I escape successfully. But if I lose this many times, then I die, right? Chat was lauding in the fact that I was failing so terribly.
Isn't that the best entertainment? Yes.
The game has a wonderful like higher lower mechanic where you draw a card from a deck. And to progress forward successfully, you have to guess if the next card is higher or lower.
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
So the deck is aces to tens. And I draw an 8. And I'm like, all right, it's got to be lower. It's got to be lower. There's no way it's going to be. There's no way it's a 9 or a 10.
I know where this is going.
That's like,
you can't fool me.
That's like 8 out of 30-something cards. There's zero chance it's a 9 or a 10. And 2 plays in a row, I roll the higher number. I'm like, there's no way. The odds. Happy. There's no way.
This is great.
So if you want to watch me go through a kind of a mental collapse sort of situation, you can check out my live stream from, what is this, mid-May? Of Lost Below the Earth, a quick 45-minute playthrough of basically the whole game, and it is very, very fun. So that's been a recurring theme of me playing short games on stream and dying to the enjoyment of my chat. So,
do you have more people in chat when you do bad?
I notice the numbers ticking up a little bit as I get closer and closer to death.
Nice.
So it is a selling point.
The stakes are selling you. Amazing.
Anything Beautiful. From you?
Well, I had rehearsal weekend past weekend, which was so fun. Oh my God. I love musical theater. I love it. It was great. Also, I'm so tired. Like my whole week, like as we've established in literally every episode, I'm bad at like daily scheduling. But this week, like if I can't recover on the weekend, what do I do, bro? I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Right back into the work week.
Yeah, it's something. But we'll figure it out. And we have rehearsals like this evening, right again, like we're getting right back into the groove. So I'm not missing it because we're literally continuing right away, which is nice.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it's just so fun for like group building and just trying to understand what the piece is that you're doing. Like the logistics of it makes so much more sense when you see everything like behind each other, which was very fun.
Oh, yeah. When it all starts coming together, such a good feeling.
You kind of know where you come from and stuff instead of that you just randomly do emotions. Out of order, It makes no sense. But this was great. It works out so well.
It's so good.
It's going to be very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And you messaged me, which it was so fun to hear. You were like, I learned how to belt over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know how familiar our audience is with singing, but there's this thing that a lot of musical theater people do, which is belting. And it's a very solid, sustained note, usually at the end of a song. But I mean, honestly, in all musical theater, there's got to be some belting. And I'm not great at it. I have a more sort of, I guess, naturally classic operatic voice, which is not belting at all. And for one song, my role has to go super crazy. And if I do it in operatic voice, it doesn't work at all. So it has to be loud and sort of throwing it out there. And it kind of worked out this weekend because I just was forced to do it. And it was really nice to sort of access a different part of your instrument, I guess. Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. I sent you a video in response to that, which is like one of my favorite videos. I spent like 20 minutes looking for it because I'm like, I know exactly the video I need for the situation. It's basically, if you guys have seen it, it's a very short video where a girl is kind of belting a note, just kind of reaching out and trying to hit this high note. And then the vocal coach just kind of repositions her and then just like shakes her jaw, like adjusts her jaw a little bit, and it just unlocks a new sound that like catches her off guard. And I'm like, oh, that was
just like cool surprised by her own voice. Yeah, it's so great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Super fun. Great stuff. Wow, we're so busy. One week there's nothing happening, and the other week, like, we're going crazy. It's really nice.
Yeah. And it's nice because it's like, we have our usual 9 to 5s, which are a bit more boring, but we have these cool side projects. And, let it be known if you're listening to this podcast and you've got a boring 9 to 5, please find yourself a fun, satisfying hobby, even if it makes you wake up early in the morning to accomplish or fills your weekend.
Yep.
The spice of life.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I think I'm bringing the topic today. Are you ready for the topic of discussion?
Bring it on.
Cool. For episode 57, we're at episode 57, closing in on the end of this season. I want to talk about something called, well, actually, it's an idea in the tabletop RPG sphere. It's an idea that we're more familiar with, but doesn't really reach beyond it in most situations. I'm going to talk about session zeros.
Oh.
I'm going to talk about session zeros.
That's a fun one. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
The idea of a session zero, if you're unfamiliar, Basically, a tabletop RPG game often plays out over the course of multiple sessions, multiple sit-downs, multiple playthroughs. Your group kind of meets over and over again, all throughout the week, month, year, to flesh out the story that you're telling together, collaboratively. Kind of like an ongoing improv storytelling experience and or game. But in that context, while we number the sessions, session 1, session 2, session 3, session 0 is a really important concept that I believe leads to the success and longevity of many games. And at this point in time, after me playing many, at this point, hundreds of games, being in hundreds of sessions, I know from personal experience that session zeros are crucial to the game lasting. So if you're unfamiliar with the concept, I'm sorry. it's so good. It's so good. And we're here to talk about what it means.
I mean, that was a good intro. Yeah, that made sense.
Like what it means, and hopefully something you can integrate into your own play sessions with your own friends. So session zeros are a moment in time before you start playing the formal game and starting the story formally. It's a time when you sit down with your friends or whoever you're playing with and flesh out exactly what the game is going to be about. That means pinpointing what game you're playing, who you're playing as, linking all of these ideas and concepts to the world, establishing that as a foundation moving forward, and making sure that everybody's on the same page as you step into the story for the first time. I think I want to liken this to a script or a play. You can't go into working on a play or acting in it without any sort of context. Right? You can't just step in and be ready to do anything without knowing what it's going to be about. And that has to be outlined well before anything goes on. The person running the story, the storyteller, make sure that everybody understands the context of what you're moving forward with. And if and when everybody understands this, that's when you step forward with the story. Marla, do you remember any session zeros you've been part of? What is your experience with session zeros, and what's your general opinion on them?
I'm not sure if I ever ran one, because for the one actual game that I ran myself as a DM, I think I did it in separate sessions, kind of, because the first time we met, it was supposed to be a one shot, and then it sort of spiraled into whatever it became later.
Got it.
And a one shot is usually just one game, or maybe two if you run out, but that's it. And then this one was so fun that we just kept going. So then the session zero didn't really happen because I was assuming we would end after one hangout, right? But then there is, of course, you have to do prep and stuff, right? Like you have to talk with people about their characters, and you have to make sure that not two people are having the exact same thing, or that your meta conflicts, I guess, are out of the way before you actually start. So I don't think I actually ran a session zero, but I do remember one game specifically where I think it was in early days when maybe we were a month into our D&D first group,
sure, yeah.
So super,
I see, 4 years
super
ago.
young and naive D&D player, Merle, yeah. And then I tried some other games as well via the same way, because I joined you guys' game with just sort of signing up online and saying, hey, I want to play D&D. I've got no one in my area. Can I do it with you guys? And they were like, yeah, great. So I did that for some other games as well. And then I think I joined one Curse of Strahd game, which is a sort of vampire horror. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, not horror. I'm not sure. But it was starting, basically. And I remember that I quit very quickly with that game, despite that the people were quite nice. But because I really missed sort of the being in tune with each other and what everyone was expecting. I had individual chats with the DM at the time to sort of choose a character and stuff, because a lot of the characters were already filled, and it was very specific and it was a very efficient way of sort of getting me into the game. And then once I was in the game, I was like, I don't understand anything that's happening. Why is this so disconnected from me? And it was so different from the game that we were doing, even though it was both D&D, right? And the only difference was that I just felt super out of tune with the other group. And sometimes that happens, but then that kind of stuff you can really just fix and get out of the way with a session zero, just talking about what everyone likes in a game and what everyone thinks that we're going to do.
Right.
So it's more the other way that I realize more when it's not there and when it should have been there. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So both Marla and I are familiar with the experience of joining games through Roll20, which is an online platform that allows people to put up postings for games where people will be like, hey, I need 3 players for this game that I'm running. This is the context. This is the setting. Apply if you want. And then you kind of send in your application. You talk about what kind of person you are, what you look for in a game. And they kind of like pick out of the pile and be like, hey, you're good. Let's play. Back in my heyday of applying for games, which was probably around 2018, 2019, when I was momentarily unemployed, I had plenty of time to play D&D.
Nice.
So
as you do.
I applied to a couple of games throughout the week, and I very distinctly remember a small handful that left a big impression on me. One, of course, was, well, maybe not of course. One was a group that I stuck with for, I believe it was, we played a little over a year.
That's pretty good.
It was wonderful. My DM was from Germany. And there were a couple of people on the East Coast US who were the players. And we had a wonderful session 0 where we talked about the characters that we wanted to play, a little bit of backstory, not too much to spoil the fun. And what I remember most vividly is that we took time to link all of the characters. We took time to have one thread that connected everybody playing, whether it be like, oh, I worked with character A on a job one time, or, oh, I ran into character B in a marketplace like a couple of weeks back. And oh, I'm the rival of character C. And once you make those little links, it's way easier to jump into a cold setting. You know, if someone gives you a scenario, at least you know you're not alone. You can lean on these other characters and you have these added contexts. And I do want to talk about a game real quick that does it really well. But in contrast, I also applied for a game, which I will never forget. And this was a formative experience. And it taught me exactly what I'm looking for in a game. I was really hunting for a nice game to join. And I saw a game that's like, hey, we're level 10, which is, you know, usually games start at level 1. But this group is level 10. We're looking for one player to replace the one that just left. We play at 10 o'clock and we just need someone to fill in the blanks. And I'm like, hey, I want to play at level 10. I've never played at level 10. Let me jump in. So I send in an app and they invite me to the game and I join in. I don't really get to say hi to the group. I just kind of jump in. The DM's like, okay, you're just gonna meet them halfway through the session. Oh, right. And I'm like, sure, I'll sit to the side and wait for this beautiful confrontation. And the other 3 players just talk about like buying and selling inventory for an hour and a half. just you know how it works. Yeah. The paperwork, right? Yeah. There's always a moment in time when you got to play D&D and you got to do paperwork. You got to sort out your monies.
That was your first session. Oh God.
The first session, 90 minutes of paperwork.
Oh God.
And then finally they leave their little banking building and walk outside, and the DM's like, all right, as you walk out of the bank, a new guy, you see them approaching. And you know that, you know, there's a bounty on one of them. That's your link. You know one of their faces, and just go. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
Wow, that's so you know, into the deep right away.
I put on my voice.
Pretty intense.
but I'm not gonna mimic. I put on my voice and I agree. I'm like, hi, listen, do you mind if I have a moment of your time, speak to you? I'm looking for this person in particular. And the guy who's been talking for the majority of the 90 minutes, clearly the ringleader of the group, they say, I keep walking. And I'm like, hello?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. No. He's like, yeah, the party just keeps walking. Like they don't want to be bothered by like hagglers and stuff. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Just give me a second. And I try to catch up and really, and it's like that moment in the lunchroom when you're in 6th grade and you're trying to sit at a table. Ooh. And they're really trying not to make room for you. Yeah. And I just felt so ridiculously like I'm fighting for a spot at this table is what it felt crazy. Like. There was no accommodation. There was no.
That's so unfriendly. Yeah. Oh my God.
They were like, I understand that your characters are big shots. They're level 10, you know, big deals, right? But like to ignore out of meta a person jumping into your game for a first time and not even giving them the benefit of the doubt, not even suspending disbelief to have a conversation. After that game, I'm just like, hey,
you know,
I didn't, my bad. I didn't expect this game to, you know, run so late. I have a busy work schedule at this point in time. I'm unemployed. I had to wake up early next morning. I don't think I'll be able to join this game. Sorry. Thank you for your time. Thanks for including me.
But I never talked to them again. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's rough, dude. That's the roughest example I've ever heard.
Yeah, I spent like the whole past 2 days making this wonderful character. And I'm like, I'm just going to jump in. I'm working on the best way to integrate myself without being too forceful. And it just felt so bad. And that's, and kind of to bounce back to the topic, the session zeros are that time to not only get used to the setting and the characters and the moment, but also to talk to the people you're playing with, to build expectations, to establish like standards of play, like common courtesies, like we're arriving at this time. If you can't make it, let us know. Courtesy notice at least a day before, things like that. It's figuring out and molding, so to speak, a space where everybody is comfortable to play.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was sorely lacking. And after that session, I was very careful with what games I joined.
Man, I feel you. Yeah, of course you would.
I did not waste time with people who I didn't believe would respect my time, my energy.
Your craft and your involvement.
So like on Roll20, there's probably 20 to 40, 50 different games that are looking for players. But you yourself have to be picky with what you join because it's your time, it's your energy, it's your creativity that you're pouring into it. And if they're not going to give you the courtesy of a session zero to introduce you to the group, to treat you as a human being, then it's not worth your time. It's a hard way to go from there.
Yep, it's true.
Not worth your time.
And you only learn this through like joining games that suck, right? I mean, at least I did. Yes. Let's talk for myself here. But it's also something that you do wrong a couple times and then you're like, wait, I don't need to do this in this way. I can also just like skip games until I find one that's actually nice.
Yeah.
And to that regard as well, like the whole thing about like pouring your energy and your creativity and everything into it. This game is really intimate in terms of like how comfortable you have to be with people, right? It's basically improv, and it's also specifically if it's a role play heavy game, as you might say, right, where role play plays a big part of it. So the improv part is quite large compared to the mechanics or the system of the game itself. Acting is super vulnerable. If you don't have a safe space to be vulnerable in, how can you play your game at all, right? Aside from just that it's a very rude thing to like treat someone like that. But that's not going to make the game more fun because you're going to be fighting against like trying to make it work. And I wouldn't want to do it, honestly, in that way, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Like tabletop RPGs are not like board games. They're not like video games where there's a set amount of rules and you just kind of play through and you have some fun time. It really is tapping into like your acting and your improv and your ability to push yourself outside your comfort zone and be a little vulnerable, you know, play out scenes that you wouldn't play out in real life, be characters and make decisions that are less than ideal. There's a lot of things that you and your friends have to be comfortable with before you can have this sort of long running game. An essential part of a session zero is lines and veils. And every game talks about lines and veils. Yes. Every game talks about the X card for good reason.
Super important.
These are community guidelines that are kind of understood by people who have been in the scene for long enough. Lines and veils are the boundaries that you draw before any game happens. So lines are hard lines, topics that you don't want to talk about, concepts maybe too close to home that you don't want to come into a fun game. So that could be any sort of like illness or any sort of like crimes that you don't enjoy partaking in or would not want to, that you don't deem fun, that you don't deem interesting, that might touch on sore spots. Those are lines. Like you do not even talk about those. It's not conducive to fun, not conducive to happiness.
Yeah.
And then veils are moments where you fade to black, where you can speak about these in the background. You can mention that they are happening.
Yeah, they can happen in passing. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to actively participate or describe the moment any more than necessary. So sometimes that's concepts like war. Like you could talk about war happening, but you don't actually want your character to be heavily involved or describe that in any graphic detail. They could be like, my character has been part of a war and they went through those trials, and that's all I want to say about it. You know, that's a veil.
Yeah.
And then the X card, of course. The X card is a tool that a lot of people have at their tables where if something comes up, something unexpected, a topic that kind of throws you for a loop that you're not ready for, and you don't believe it's conducive to a fun, enjoyable experience, you can raise the X card. Raising the X card is a signal to the storyteller that we should move on from this topic as quickly as possible. You don't need to discuss it. You don't need to hash out why if you don't feel comfortable. The storyteller's responsibility to acknowledge the X card and move on to something that hopefully the party enjoys more. And those are basically universal safety tools that you'll find in every game. If they're not in a game, they're implemented in every game because it's a way for everybody to, again, create this safe space where you can have meaningful, touching, and compelling stories without being confronted by the very real, terrible things that are out there.
Yeah. And if I can add to that, I was kind of thinking as you were talking about these are even more relevant in a game like these, because unlike board games or, listening to an audiobook or talking to a friend, you're basically spending your time for, however many hours your session is as someone else. So someone with other values, right? Depending on how extensively you want to RP, how much you want to role play your character. But for instance, in real life, I'm super hard at conflict. I can't do it. I can't get mad. I'm terrible at it. I can never point people to their problems. I'm afraid to get angry, blah, blah, blah. I can't do it. So if I would play a character that's super angry or has a lot of, pent up frustration or is very loud all the time, I could definitely do that. But then for me, my values might be very different from the character's values. So if for me, Merle, the player outside of game, something is not okay, my character might think it's fine. But then if my character thinks it's fine, I can't in character explain that for the player, it's not okay to do this. So I have to have some tool or some sort of safety net outside of the game world to be able to to act on that in a way without sort of disrupting it too much. Like it's a pretty tight balance as well. But I think it's very necessary that it's there because you have this sort of player versus character dynamic going on at the table with everyone involved, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What I picked up from Nick, our friend who has run games for us in the past, there's a form they send out, kind of a consent checklist.
Oh, yeah.
Where it has a bunch of very terrible topics, so to speak. Not necessarily terrible, but like traditionally uncomfortable topics. And you check next to each of these topics, okay with this topic, prefer not to participate, prefer not to see, or hard cut no. Right. And you can fill those out. There's even some blanks where you can fill in things that you're personally uncomfortable with. Storyteller collects these privately, and then at session 0, they discuss the topics that will not be showing up, depending on what was submitted by the party. And that's very, very important in a game that focuses around combat, conflict, that focuses around damage, For
sure. It's like a giant list of trigger warnings, and then we will know if we have to be, warned by it or if we can't even use them. Yeah. I don't know. When I fill in a form, it always makes me feel like awful. And also I have to laugh at myself a little bit because I'm always I'm usually pretty good with whatever topic comes up. I don't really have a lot of triggers, I guess, like that. But then I always make everything green, but it feels so weird to make the most horrible topics and be like, yeah, I'm totally cool with this. But then
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like our friend was like, "Hey, this game's we're gonna step into gothic horror.
Oh yeah,
how do you guys do with gothic horror?" And both of us are like, "Yeah,
we love gothic horror.
Let's go.
We love limbs disattaching. We love blood.
Yeah,
that's not true in real life, people.
Blood and guts.
It's a game.
Yeah. Yep. It's just what your tolerance levels are. It's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And it's important to get that out literally at session 0 before you start playing, before people come in with the expectation of certain things and then realize that those are not going to show up.
Yeah.
And or expect things to not be there and then have them kind of catch them off guard, like open up a closet and find them. It's
literally
it's that sort of situation.
And also so important for the DM, right? Because a lot of the DMing experience is, of course, providing a story not providing, but, introducing the elements of a story, I guess.
Right.
That the players don't know. Like the most joy in D&D is that you don't know what's going to come and that you build it up together. So if you a lot of the times DMs will just sort of put something in front of you that the players won't know exists before you, as a DM, explain that it is there. But if you then don't know what the triggers of your players are, that can get very hairy really quick, right? So it's super important. Yeah.
Yeah. On a lighter note, I suppose, what I love about Session Zeros is building the context of the party. These games are usually played with a number of people involved. So the best way to jump into the story with everybody taking the same step forward is to link characters. And my favorite example of this was found in the game Masks: A New Generation, my second most played tabletop RPG. by a large margin. There's D&D's all the way up here, and Masks is like little half a dozen games. But they have a mechanic. Again, this, I don't know if you've heard of this game, but Masks: A New Generation is a superhero game where you play as high school heroes.
I feel like we've once talked about this. Yeah, I feel like you brought it up once.
Right. Your heroes not only going through the process of learning your powers, but also through adolescence, going through high school, and balancing your life. So they have this wonderful thing where every character comes with 2 blanks, and those 2 blanks have to be filled with the names of other players. So it says, the blank is my bitter rival. We've known each other since we were kids, and now we're meeting each other on the professional level. And you have to choose which of your friends belongs in that space. And then the next space is, this person inspired you. You saw them in action and wished to be more like them in this aspect. And then you pick another one of your friends. And everybody has those 2 lines. So before you even play the game, before you even start, you have these intrinsically deep connections to 2 other people. And it's a wonderful little bonding experience. And for a game like Masks, which I've taught and played many new players within the span of 3 to 4 hours, it's so quick in getting people into the right mindset.
Yeah, I love that.
And character creation process is very short, and basically half of it is spent on linking and bonding these characters. So in the first 5 minutes, these characters will all already have this breadth of context in which they know each other. So it makes sense how they linked up, how they started. The last question you answer at the end of character creation is, how did this team form? And everybody's character sheets have a single question they bring to that situation. So it'll be like, you 4 arrived at this moment in time. 2 of you had a disagreement, but eventually you guys came together and conquered this villain, which led to this situation. And now you guys are followed or targeted by this person. What does that look like? And then everybody chimes in and fills in the blanks. And you have this context for the first encounter of these characters. And with that context in mind, like, oh yeah, we beat the pollution villain last week.
Yeah.
And then we agreed to stay as a party, and with that context, with that very brief moment of connection, you can step into session 1 already comfortable with each other, already understanding the basic ley lines of your relationships. And that was so, so refreshing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I think that's such a great way to do it. And also, in general, like if you play a game that I guess takes some warming up, right? Because it is intimate and, quite close to other people, I guess. Yeah, it's not the right word, but you know what I mean? It's also even greater if the game system, like the environment that you play in, the lines or the rules that are there already, if they foster it as quick as possible. Because I think even like I have this a lot too. Like I really have to sort of get into the groove of, oh yeah, I'm playing a character now, or oh yeah, we're doing RP now. Specifically because we're doing or at least I do usually online gaming. So it feels like I have to sort of tune in a little bit before I can sort of bring that to the table. And if the game itself is already so like pulling that out of you, it's very easy to tap into that, I think. So that's great. That sounds super nice. Yeah.
And I guess the final note I would like to share about Session Zeros is just the storyteller establishing the setting, making sure everybody knows the time period, the state of the world, what genre you're in. Oh my gosh, your genre.
So important.
You can't just, you can't just assume medieval fantasy. It's not always medieval fantasy.
Nope.
Sometimes you're thrown into the most ridiculous of settings. And if everybody's got to understand that because
you have to be kind of aware.
You're walking into the first setting. It's like, okay, what city are we in? Oh, is that like the north or the south? Is it like cold here? Oh, does this place have like a king? Or it's a village. Okay, it's a village. Oh, okay.
And you can play with that too, right? Like sometimes I remember, what was it? I think High Rollers. I never finished that campaign, but like when it started with people waking up or having amnesia, I'm not sure. But sometimes it's a cool thing where you have to figure out the world in the first few, how do you call it? Like story beats. But if that's not your goal, please tell the people what you're playing in. Please tell them where they are.
Yeah.
It's very useful.
Yeah. Like when building a character, and it often happens during Session Zero, you come in with a rough idea of your character and you can fill in the blanks as you're learning more about the setting. As someone like me who loves to integrate their story into the setting and be like, this character can only ever exist in this specific setting. Like that's kind of my goal when I finish a character. It's very important. I just want to feel like I'm part of the world. I was crafted by the world and molded by the world.
Yeah. And it's also so fun as a player to have influence on the world that you're playing in, right? Like if you come from a specific part of the city that no other player is from and your DM allows you to sort of build that out yourself or to create your own connection there, or your sort of how you're established there, or how long you've lived there, or what your house looks like, like the most basic stuff. It's so fun because then suddenly sometimes when the story ends up in that part of the city, for instance, then suddenly you have a little bit of knowledge that no one else knows. Maybe not even the DM sometimes, And that's really nice because then the agency shifts a little bit and you really feel like literally your character is more comfortable in this part because they literally made it up, right? It's really nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, feels very embedded also.
we constantly have to remind people that this is a collaborative storytelling game.
Yeah.
So the game master, dungeon master, storyteller, they shouldn't be responsible for every detail of the world. At certain points in time, when a player has expertise in a certain situation, the DM should just give the reins to them and let them build out part of the world. And you get to now experience a moment of improv and be like, oh, cool. Let's work with that. Let's work with that. And that can't happen if the player doesn't know what the world is.
Yeah,
so again,
it's true.
Session 0. Get everybody on the same page.
I think my most favorite example of this is where, tiny spoilers for Critical Role Season 2, Campaign 2, I mean, where Liam O'Brien, who plays Caleb Widogast, just sort of made up an entire children's story on the spot because I think the week before or something, he mentioned a title and then another character expressed interest in, oh yeah, I'd love if you read that to me sometime. And then he just wrote the story in the meantime. And then he's like, well, it's there now. It's in the world. I made it up. Yeah. Here you go. Here's me, like 10 minutes narration of this beautiful story I wrote. Favorite moment. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's what happens when players understand the context of your world, what's possible, what's realistic.
And care for it, honestly. That's also a big part of it.
Yeah.
I feel like they have agency over it. Yeah.
Run your Session 0s. Let them happen.
Yes.
Even if you don't know what you're going to talk about yet, even if you don't know the context of what you want to discuss, I think that'll just naturally come up. You talk with your friends what they're looking for in the game, what they expect from a game, and build out what you want to run if you're running the game. And if you're playing the game, ask questions. It's the most important time. And yeah, that's it. That's the
well
topic.
said.
That's all I got.
It's great. Good to tackle as well, because it's a very specific thing, right?
Well, with that out of the way, let's go to the prompt. Every week we talk about a prompt at the end of the podcast to kind of put a little cap on the topic. Lately, it's been very much connected to the topics we talk about. And this one is very, very relevant. And this is a prompt I'm a little bit excited to bring forth because I put a little bit more effort into this than usual.
You spoiled this before we started recording.
I very explicitly told Nola, like, I worked on this prompt. So
well, I mean, he didn't spoil the topic, but he spoiled how excited he was.
No. Well, I'm going to let us play through a scenario that kind of only ever plays out in bad dreams, where you're walking into a situation not entirely prepared for it. And I need you to kind of improvise your way out.
Oh, God. Okay.
So
here goes nothing.
So I'm going to pull from many years of tabletop experience in this moment. And I'm going to put you, Marla, as a person in this prompt.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Are you ready for this?
I am my own character?
Yes. It's you playing as you.
Cool.
Okay. You can suspend disbelief for as long as you want. And then when you're out, you're out. You know, just X card it and we're done. Okay.
Cool.
Hey, you are joining a new table. You've been invited by your friend Sandra. They're excited to have you play. They can no longer play because they got a new job. And they're looking for a new player. And they said, hey, Marla, you're going to be a great fit here. The game's at 11 o'clock. It's played locally. Wonderful.
Very nice. Very nice.
You don't have to go online for this.
Yes.
Just meet with Dave. Dave's a GM. And play and have fun. And tell me how it goes afterwards. Because I got to go get paid and do my 95. So you're given the address. It's just kind of a show up kind of thing. You were literally told about this 2 days ago, so you didn't really have much time to prep. Going in. You knock on the door and you are welcomed into a very nice living room, a very cozy place, very quiet, and ready to set up for a wonderful game of we could do our comfort zone, Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
So Dave sits you down. Hey, nice to meet you. Sandra talked a lot about you. We've been playing for like better part of 7-8 months now. And we're eager to continue the story. We're real sad that Sandra had to sit out, but we're looking for a player and you're recommended. And it's great that this could all kind of come together. So you have your character, right?
Oh, I was not sure that I had to. Like I heard this 2 days ago. Maybe that was a misunderstanding.
Sandra gave me your email. Did you get the email? It had like the details of the game. So I thought you were.
I'm afraid I didn't see it. Would you mind summarizing that for me?
It might take a bit of a while to summarize it. Well, actually, now just sit down. We'll do a little bit of a primer, get you into the setting.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Usually we start these games around this time, but everybody arrives late, and I have this like house rule where if people start late, the game just kind of starts without them. So you're the only one here on time,
right?
Which is,
okay.
It's pretty normal. Yeah, this is a little bit of a different hour than we usually play. We'll go back to our usual hours next week.
Oh, because it's not at 11 usually?
Oh, I mean, this isn't their usual time.
That's what I heard from Sandra, I thought. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, we could hash it out when everybody's here. Okay. Do you have like a name for your character? We could. I can just kind of throw you in, and we'll figure out the details of your character as we go.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. We'll
Cool.
We'll make that work, I guess.
Cool. It's a typical, classic dungeon delve. We got some goblins we got to take care of. We'll just have your character join where we left off. So let me just, let's just walk this through, right? I'll play out the scenario and you do what you feel like your character would do. And then as people kind of arrive, we can go from there. How's that sound?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So you're already 16 levels deep.
Oh, okay.
We've been in this dungeon for about 5 months and we're finally getting to the climactic moment of the person we're trying to rescue. You have a knife in your leg. You're bleeding out.
Oh, okay.
It's been a problem you have been dealing with for the past 30 seconds. We're already in combat. What do you want to do?
So do I have like a character like
Yeah, that was in the email. Like you bring the character to the table. So you tell me what you want to do and we'll go from there.
Cool. I mean, I can make it up, but I don't, as I said, I don't have a character. So
Yeah. I trust you. Sandra said you're like an actor or something. You can figure this out real quick.
Yeah. Okay. That's not how I usually do it, but then so it will be a little bit chaotic.
It'll be a little. No, it's okay. I'm good with chaos. I can improvise.
Okay. Sure. So I guess I'll pull out the knife from my leg first.
Great. Fantastic. Okay. You got a knife. What do you want to do with it?
Did anyone throw this knife into me that I can stab back?
Yeah, right. There's
are
actually
there other
like
people here?
Yeah, there's about 16 goblins on the other side.
16? Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of surrounded in this moment. We're picking up exactly where we left off last session. Just
I wasn't there last session,
character for yours.
Yeah, cool.
It's okay.
Like, I'm not that good of I can't see in your brain. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, what would you do in this situation? We're going to paint 16 goblins around you. What's the game plan?
Do I have magic?
Yeah, is that if that's the character you brought? Yeah, you could use your magic.
Yeah, so cool. What level are we? Level 10?
Yeah, we've been playing level 10 for a bit. Cool. Yeah.
Okay. I assume I have perhaps some sort of lower level prestidigitation or noise making sound that it will hopefully distract these goblins for a second, and I'll try to use that.
Absolutely. Oh, cool. So you play like an instrument or something. That's great. What instrument do you play?
No. Well, no. I don't think. Okay, so this feels. Can I step out for a bit? I'm not sure if
of course,
maybe I should. I can also just come back next session and then make sure to have everything prepared. And
no, you came all the way here. I don't.
Yeah, but it feels like it's not. I'm not sure if we're getting it. Like, isn't it more useful if I just like know what I'm doing?
This is fine. I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a really long time. I can improvise with whatever you got to do.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this game's for me.
Well, you just got here. You just
and I love the enthusiasm. I think it's great that you invited me. Sandra's the greatest. I'm sure your game is awesome, but I'm not sure if I can deal with something that's. I guess I just need a little bit more structure before I sort of dive in like this. If that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, I thought I sent the email before the game. Yeah, what time is it now? 11? Yeah, I sent it around like 10:30, 10:35-ish. I figured that'd be enough time for you to...
Right.
Yeah.
So that wasn't because I wasn't available until...
So in the email, it actually links to a whole Wikipedia where you can look up kind of the different factions of the world.
Oh, that I had to read in like a half hour then? Did you?
Yeah, I mean, or just skim whatever, what interests you and stuff like that. And listen, if you change your mind, so looking for a player, we do play at 11 p.m. It's when Greg and Pete get out of work and Jessica has off on alternating Tuesdays and Thursdays, if that works for you. And we usually play for about 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
Just typical D&D
Why don't
stuff.
we say I'll try the next session and make sure to come more prepared and maybe meet the people first. That would be lovely. And otherwise, I guess I'm going to dip out and I guess you might have more use for a player that's more.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Able to play with you.
Yeah.
But thanks for the invite. This was fun.
No problem. It was so good to meet you. Yeah. Tell Sandra I said hi.
Yeah, will do. Thanks.
End scene.
And I leave forever.
And I walk away.
Oh, I hate this. That was too. Did you remember that we talked about that anime from like about running that you were like, wait, it's about college now? Oh, this is too relatable. Well, that's literally this. I don't like playing myself. in improv. Oh my God. Yeah, that was a perfect example of what you shouldn't do. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Dave.
You know, now I'm gonna because I'm pulling from a very, very personal spot here.
Oh,
this is referring to that one game that I did not want to join.
Oh no. Was this your literal experience? Awful.
The time start was 10:30 p.m. The time start was 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And if you remember the context that I talked about 20 minutes ago, I waited for 90 minutes to play. So I started playing at midnight. And the way I got out of that game was I emailed the guy and I was like, hey, this seems like a wonderful game. I thought the listing said 10:30 a.m. Classic mix up. I'm so sorry.
Wah, wah.
I won't be able to join.
Totally
my bad.
Yep.
It's my fault. My bad.
Yep. Nice little cheat code there.
When I was prepping this prompt, it pulled from a very personal spot. What is that? A little
could
chip
feel
on
the
my
pain.
shoulder.
It was too real to like not be related to anything. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's all for this.
And awful.
That's all for this session. And you handled it very well. Thank you for drawing boundaries real darn early, because it was just going to get worse from there.
Oh, I'm glad I stepped out there. That was more than enough for me.
Well, thank you guys for listening to this podcast. I don't know if the end of this podcast made you deeply uncomfortable. I apologize for springing that on you. That's just the reality of finding games in this space.
It's just explaining the topic. Do a session 0, people.
Next week, we'll hopefully talk about something a little more comfortable, and or not. It really depends on you, Marla. Whatever topic you want to bring to the table, we'll be ready to talk about it. And if it's not a good topic, we'll
draw boundaries in a session 0. Huh?
We'll talk about boundaries instead. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, if this inspires you to world build and storytell, or at least gives you confidence to start games of your own, please do. Tap into that wonderful imagination you have and bring out the infinite worlds that exist within.
Yes, that's what this is all for.
Always remember what we have been meaning to touch on for a very long time, for a very, very long time. This little simple fact that no matter what, your rivers are wrong.
Yep, they're pretty wrong.
And we're not fixing that today.
Nope.
Maybe some other day.
Goodbye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. If you have ideas for topics, prompts, or you just want to share your thoughts, please reach us at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. That's yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. Also, a big thanks to Maarten Schellekens, who created the intro and outro music for our podcast. And most importantly, thank you for listening. We hope to see you at the next one. Bye.